This one hit X like an absolute ton of bricks. And Catholics were like, oh, it's, we're having a good week. What? What happened? This happened. So all credit to Diane Montagna, her Substack. I'll put it in the chat if you want to go check it out and read it for yourself. Because I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm actually going to go to Regina Chaley because they do a nice summary of it. But she dropped a Moab, right? She dropped a Moab on the Catholic internet community today. And so, Lou, check out this article after I read about it because I'm not going to read the whole thing. And so, exclusive official Vatican report exposes major cracks in the foundation of Traditionis Custodes. Now, Traditionis Custodes, which we'll talk about in a second, is the thing that suppresses the Latin Mass. So let's go to Regina Chaley. Journalist obtains exclusive report to World Report on Summum Pontificum. I'm an idiot. You know what it is. Pope Francis' restrictions were based on lies. Now, Catholic Jedi, doesn't surprise. No, it doesn't surprise me considering the type of agenda that Francis wanted to push. Right? That he wanted to push. Try to be as respectful to the Holy Father when he was alive, but the man tried to change. He tried to push the church in a direction that doesn't fit with the teachings of the church. So, American journalist Diane Montagna, who has long covered the Vatican, obtained an exclusive document. Now, the first question we can ask is, and this is all speculation on my part, just take it with a grain of salt. This is just me workshopping with the audience. Do you think somebody in Leo's circle dropped this to her? To kind of throw out, and once again, all speculation. This is just me thinking out loud, which is dangerous. Because what has been Robert Cardinal Burke went to Pope Leo the 14th and said, please lift the restrictions on the Latin Mass. A very loud contingent on social media from the American side. Holy Father, help us lift the restrictions on the Latin Mass, especially after what happened in Charlotte. Detroit suffered a blow last night. They lost their Latin Mass. Tulsa, in Illinois, I believe, all these other things. Do you think Leo might have dropped this? Leo might have said, hey, get this to somebody you trust to give people an idea. So if they've had this, who's had it? When the famous phrase, Peter, is who's they? Who's they? Right? Who's the one that's they? So she obtained this report, an original summary and report of the global assessment of the application of Summorum Pontificum, the 2007 document by Pope Benedict XVI that freed the traditional Latin Mass and liturgy. All it essentially said was that there was no need to ask permission to do the Latin rite. Any Catholic church can do it. Any Roman Catholic church can do it. That's all. That's really what Pope Benedict said. Don't have to ask us anymore. Go. So what would lead you to think that Burke and them had this for a while? I'm not even being a jerk. I'm going back and forth. That's what makes the show well. I'm asking you this question. Summorum Pontificum itself foresaw a report in order to adjust any issues with implementation, and the report now was obtained with a generally positive note, as Montagna reported. The previously undisclosed text, which forms a crucial part of the official report by the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith on its 2020 consultation of bishops concerning Summorum Pontificum, reveals that, quote, the majority of bishops who responded to the questionnaire stated that making legislative changes would cause more harm than good. That is the official document, the official questionnaire that went out. And the questionnaire was, what do you think about doing restrictions? And they all came back and they said, don't do anything. Don't do anything. Stop it. It's going to cause more harm. And as we've seen with the implementation of Traditionis Custodes, it has. The overall assessment directly contradicts, therefore, the stated rationale for imposing Traditionis Custodes and raises serious questions about its credibility. All right? That's the whole thing, as we say here. So, on July 16th, 2021, Pope Francis promulgated Traditionis Custodes. He said the response to the questionnaire, quotes, reveals a situation that preoccupies and saddens me and persuades me of the need to intervene. Regrettably, he said in the letter, the pastoral objective of my predecessors has often been seriously disregarded. An opportunity offered by St. Pope John Paul II, and with even greater magnanimity by Pope Benedict XVI, was exploited to widen the gap, reinforce the divergences, and encourage disagreements that injure the church and block her path and expose her to the perils of division. So, ironically enough, Pope Francis said that bringing in the Latin Mass would cause further division. So, it's very interesting that he would use those words. As Regina Caeli states, we all knew that this report was probably more positive than negative because we could all see with our own eyes the very positive developments that were on the ground. Greater reverence, increased respect in the celebration of the Novus Ordo. Because the idea was, if you had the Latin Mass there, then it's going to reflect onto the Novus Ordo, and you will get a more reverent Novus Ordo by default. If the priest, like in a diocese, and if a diocesan priest is doing the Latin Mass, then he's going to, just by habit, do the Novus Ordo in a more positive and respectful way. And the gradual end of the painful separation between Catholics now living in the same parish. There were negative issues, as it happened with any human endeavor, but they far outweighed the positive aspects. I think the official report, if she has this here. So there were 7 key takeaways from the assessment. 7 key takeaways from the assessment. Lack of liturgical peace and unity is due more to minority of bishops, as somebody mentioned in the chat, McCarrick, Supich, who, by the way, met with Pope Leo XIV today, and it sounds like he may be retiring. So Pope Leo, he still hasn't appointed a bishop for our diocese yet, but I hope, he'll get around to it when he gets around to it. So there'll be another one. A lot of people are starting to bang the drums. Maybe Bishop Barron gets the call to go to Chicago. You can celebrate that or not. That's just stuff in the air. There's nothing to confirm that. Where liturgical peace is lacking, the report shows it stems more from a level of nuisance, prejudice, and resistance of a minority of bishops to Summorum Pontificum than from any problem drawn to the actual rite. The CDF report recalls Benedict XVI to his desire to achieve, through the implementation of this document, Summorum Pontificum, an intellectual liturgical reconciliation within the church, and his recognition of the need to proceed not according to the hermeneutic, I can't say that word because I'm stupid, you all know that, of rupture, but rather by renewal in the continuity of tradition. So that's the first one. You could, like I said, you can read all these. I dropped the link in the chat. The second one, majority of bishops who implemented Summorum Pontificum expressed satisfaction with it. And the third, bishops are grateful for the competence of the CDF fourth section, the disbanded Pontifical Commission Ecclesiastical Dei. For the report confirmed attraction of young people to the older form of liturgy, which if you've ever been to a Latin Mass, you understand that. Younger people are attracted to it. As the famous line from, who's the guy who played Padre Pio? I can't believe I forgot his name. Shia LaBeouf. Remember that famous interview he had with with Bishop Barron, with Archbishop Barron, when he said, "I feel like I'm being sold a used car when I go to the Novus Ordo." That kind of was the phrase everybody uses. Number 5, report highlighted growth of vocations in ex ecclesia Dei communities since Summorum Pontificum. 6, report recommends studying both forms of Roman Rite as part of seminary formation. And number 7, recommended let the people be free to choose. Based on the findings of the survey, citing a Filipino bishop, the CDF report concludes by recommending, quote, let the people be free to choose, unquote, and recalling a bishop's irreplaceable, albeit sometimes challenging role and duty to perform before God to tend to the flock. The report ends with Pope Benedict XVI's word to the bishops of France, which you guys can read. So this idea is, all right, since the report was the basis of the limitations and the plan of gradual extinction of the traditional Latin Mass, which we saw try to be put into overdrive in Charlotte. And that's another thing that I'm putting random puzzle pieces together, so you can think I'm crazy or not. Let me know in the comment section. That's why the famous, the Bishop of Charlotte got the call. And I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a Latin Mass in San Marcos, which is about 2 hours away from me. They got a 2-year extension. I'm seeing, maybe because I have rose-colored glasses on because I love Pope Leo XIV, I'm seeing Pope Leo setting up the chessboard saying, I will get to the Latin Mass, guys. I'm not going to get to it this year. He probably won't get to it for a couple years, but he's, if somebody is asked, he will give permission as long as he needs to. Now, if a bishop restricts it, you're going to have to, it sucks for me to say this, and I'm sorry I have to say it like this. You're just going to have to deal with it for now. I don't think Pope Leo is going to take the first 2 years and drop a major bombshell by reversing something like this. I think he will. I think he will maybe in 3 years. I don't know. If you think that's ridiculous, let me know in the comment section down below. But I don't think he's going to get to it immediately. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I think he's got more, you can see he's very much enthralled with the idea of communicating with the Orthodox as much as possible, which is a great thing. Which, by the way, Orthobros, when the schism is healed, and, may not be under Pope Leo, if it's ever healed, Orthobros, you're going to have to submit to Rome. Just get over that. I know it's like a dirty thing. You're going to have to submit to Rome. Just get that through your head. Eventually, you're going to have to. He seems like that's kind of what he's trying to press right now. And I think he's just trying to get his house in order. So we'll see how that goes. I might be wrong. Beat me up in the comments if you think I'm just saying whatever, but well, there's also a lot of things. I know Anthony Stein did something about, because France has changed some things in the law as well. He did a bunch of other stuff that we didn't know about that Leo's going to have to undo. It's not just like he can write. I mean, he probably could just say, everybody gets a Latin Mass, go. But I think, remember, he's a lawyer and he's a mathematician. So he is not one to go flying off the cuff. He's not going to do anything until all his I's are dotted and T's are crossed. That's something, I don't think it's an excuse. I think it might be a fact of life. I just mentioned it. I just mentioned that I think Pope Leo will eventually either reverse Traditionis Custodes or kind of, get rid of it, because you see things like the call he made in Charlotte to tell the bishop to back off. And then he gave the 2-year extension to who asked for it. If you ask for an extension, I think it looks like Pope Leo is going to grant it. He's going to be more than happy to grant it. Now, if the bishop says, well, I'm going under Traditionis Custodes and I'm banning the Latin Mass in my parish, the Pope, I mean, it's not really, I don't know. Do you think the Pope's going to call him and be like, don't do that? I don't think that's the kind of Pope Leo is. I don't think that's kind of how it is, where it goes. So it's very hard to go against their predecessors due to the belief, the continuity that we as Catholics believe the duty of the bishops of Rome to preserve and protect. Yeah, there's a lot of things. It's an uphill battle. that Leo's going to have to do, which is why I don't think it's going to happen within the next couple years. I think he is going to put together a commission. I mean, he wasn't that kind of what we saw. He's a moderate in a lot of things. He does want unity. He's been using Latin in pretty much all of his masses. He's been demonstrating that. So I don't think he's the kind of guy. I'm borrowing this line from Anthony. He's not going to pull out the flaming sort of Saint Michael and cast down thy enemies and all these other kinds of things. He's gonna. It's a different Vatican. So, well, he postponed it to October. Let's see what happens in October. Right? Maybe the thing with October is that was the previous original agreement. So I don't know. I think once it goes to October and the bishop does what he wants, I don't think Leo's going to step in, because that bishop will have that right as bishop in that diocese once that agreement expires. Establishes by Francis document Traditionis Custodes, ghost written by radical liturgist Andrea Grillo for Francis. We know that the document itself, in addition to being doctrinally illegitimate, since it claims to extinguish what no pope can extinguish, because that's what we know, it's in the missal, it's granted to us, we've already covered that. And then Pope Benedict pretty much said you can't get rid of it. Pope Benedict said you can't get rid of the mass. So that's one thing. It also procedurally illegitimate and inept, based on lies, deception, for all those things. So, Latin, but the Latin mass is being shut down. What we just talked about, he just extended it in 2 years and saying that's not true all the way around. So that, just think about that. It's not being shut down everywhere. Yeah, it's being shut down by bishops that want to shut it down. Remember, bishops operate, they're their own independent regions. The bishops can kind of do as long as it's within the framework. And unfortunately, right now, Traditionis Custodes is within the framework. So they're not doing anything outside the lines. And remember, he's a canon lawyer, so he's not gonna step out on that. But we have this being released. We have the extension in San Angelos, or San Marcos, and the release is actually going to put a real bend in a lot of bishops who are going to be trying to do this, because questions are going to be put out there. Like, hey, this is, was this done under false pretenses and all these other things? That's why I'm thinking, and once again, I could be completely wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below. Somebody from Leo's team dropped this to her and said, yeah, put this out there. Put this out there. Because he's the only, how else from that? So it is what it is on that regard. So it is an interesting thing. I know a lot of people are going to be like, see, it's illegitimate. Pope Leo, get rid of it now. And all I'm saying here is I think you're setting yourself up for failure if you're expecting Pope Leo to act instantly on this, because that's just not, it doesn't seem like that's going to be Pope Leo's style, Pope Leo the 14th style. I just don't think it is. I think honestly, maybe maybe a paper trail will start to develop that will give the commission the ability to do these things. So there can be no questioning. Guys, when this happens now, which I think it will, you can't say, well, Traditionis Custodes, because we have proof. We have proof now that it is done. It was done under false pretenses. So we'll see. But it was an interesting article. Interesting to hear people break it down. I'm sure the naysayers will be like, it doesn't matter, so they'll just still enact it. I don't think that's the case. I think it's the first domino that's being set up for when Traditionis Custodes is eventually moved out of the way. This will be used as part of that. Any lawyer knows you can't go to bat on something you know, you can't tell a lawyer, here's one piece of evidence, go to court. The lawyer's going to go, this is a great piece of evidence, but I need 3 things to back up this piece of evidence. That's just any good lawyer is going to tell you that. So it is what it is. It doesn't usually. I made the analogy. You weren't here, Bellator. The Vatican is not a speedboat. The Vatican is an aircraft carrier. And you cannot turn an aircraft carrier quickly. This is not the movie Battleship where you drop the anchor and it does like, it drifts in the water. That doesn't happen in real life. So trying to turn the Vatican ship is going to take time. And like I said this once, if you're new, if you just joined us, I said this in the beginning of the show. You can say I'm wrong. I completely understand why you think it is. This is just how I'm approaching it. This first year and these, oh, look, this massive creation and this person over here and then blah, 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 blah. I don't think you can expect a pope to do anything in his first year because Pope Leo the 14th trying to get his people in place, trying to get his feet wet and trying to figure out who he can trust and who he can't. Right? Because it is a bureaucracy in there. So I'm giving you the reasons why that there's a bit of a waiting. So I wish the mass was, I wish Traditionis Custodes was gone tomorrow, guys. I'm in the same boat you are. I have a church 4 minutes away from me. And I drive 45 minutes to Baylor to go to the Latin Mass. You know how easier it would be in my life if the Latin Mass was 3 minutes away, 4 minutes away? It'd be great. We're not there yet. So I think it was a very interesting thing. I think there was a deliberate reason why it was dropped. I think the stage is being set. The paper trail is being set. The dominoes are being set for this to be done. So, welcome to politics.